The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled their floating seats, all talking at once about the same problem. Planet Zerion 7 sat on their star maps like a cruel joke, mocking every attempt to claim its treasures. Councillor Thax slammed his forearms on the crystal podium. His blue skin turned darker with frustration. "Silence!" he roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. The noise died down slowly. "We have lost another colony," Thax announced. The Vorthak expedition lasted exactly 9 days on Zerion 7. 9 days. These are the same beings who mine lava planets for breakfast. A ripple of worried murmurs spread through the assembly. The Vorthak were known across the galaxy for their incredible toughness. If they couldn't survive on Zerion 7, who could? The quantum crystals on that world could power our entire civilization for 1,000 years, continued Thax. Yet every species we send dies within days. The Zephyrians lasted 3 days before acid storms melted their suits. The crystalline collective's machines dissolved in hours. Even our automated probes fail after a few cycles. Ambassador Lisa Grant sat quietly in the human section. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but she listened carefully, to every word. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 2 years ago, and most aliens still treated them like curious pets. "Perhaps," said Councillor Vex from across the chamber, "we should accept that some worlds are simply beyond our reach." The insect-like being clicked his mandibles nervously. Unacceptable. Thax's skin turned almost black now. Those crystals represent unlimited energy. Whoever controls them will control trade routes across 3 sectors. We cannot simply give up. Lisa raised her hand slowly. The gesture looked tiny in the massive chamber, but somehow Thax noticed. "The human wishes to speak," he said with obvious amusement. Several aliens chittered and clicked what sounded like laughter. Lisa stood up. "What exactly makes this planet so dangerous?" she asked in a calm voice. Thax activated a hologram of Zerion 7. The planet spun slowly above the assembly, looking like a nightmare made real. Dark storms covered most of its surface. Red and orange patches showed where volcanoes pumped poisonous gases into the thick atmosphere. "Gravity 3 times your Earth normal," Thax read from his datapad. "Atmospheric pressure that would crush most species. The air contains sulfuric acid, methane, and compounds that eat through metal. Surface temperatures range from -50 to +200 degrees, sometimes changing within hours." He paused for effect. "The wildlife includes creatures we call stalkers. They're 15 feet tall, have acid for blood, and can sense electrical activity from miles away. They hunt in packs and seem to enjoy killing anything that moves." "Sounds unpleasant," Lisa said simply. More alien laughter filled the chamber. Thax smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Indeed, which is why I have a proposal." His voice turned silky smooth. "Humans are new to our community. Perhaps they could provide fresh perspective on this challenge." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She recognized the tone. It was the same voice politicians used back on Earth when they wanted someone else to take the blame for their failures. "You want us to try colonizing Zerion 7, she said. "Exactly. Consider it an opportunity to prove human worth to the Council. We will provide transportation and basic supplies. If you succeed, humanity gains full mining rights to the planet. If you fail..." Thax shrugged with all 4 shoulders. "Well, at least we will have more data about how the planet kills intruders." Lisa looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed the same expression. They expected humans to die quickly and provide entertainment in the process. Some were already placing bets on how long the human colony would last. "I need to consult with Earth," Lisa said. "Of course, take your time." Thax's smile grew wider. "The Council will wait for your decision." 3 days later, Lisa stood in the same chamber with a datapad in her hands. The alien representatives leaned forward eagerly, expecting to hear human refusal or desperate pleas for better equipment. "Earth accepts your challenge," Lisa announced. The chamber fell silent. Several aliens looked confused, as if they had misheard. We will send a 5-person team to establish operations on Zerion 7, Lisa continued. Captain Jake Murphy will command the mission. Dr. Amy Collins will handle biological research. Engineer Pete Rodriguez will manage environmental systems. Sergeant Katie Bell will provide security. Medic Danny Walsh will handle medical needs. Thax recovered his composure quickly. Excellent. The Council applauds human courage. We will provide the transport ship New Frontier and standard colonial supplies. Lisa nodded. She had read the supply manifest. Standard colonial supplies meant the cheapest, oldest equipment the Council could find without looking completely unreasonable. The New Frontier was a cargo hauler from the previous century, barely spaceworthy. When do we depart? She asked. As soon as your team assembles. The sooner we begin this experiment, the sooner we can gather valuable scientific data. As Lisa left the chamber, she heard alien voices rising behind her. They were already discussing how to divide Zerion 7's resources after the humans died. Some debated whether humans would last longer than the Vorthak. Others wondered if they should send cameras to record the deaths for educational purposes. Lisa activated her communication device as she walked through the station corridors. Priority message to Earth, she said quietly. Tell Jake and his team to pack everything they can carry. These aliens expect us to fail, but they don't know humans very well. She paused at a viewing window that showed the stars stretching endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, Zerion 7 waited like a hungry beast, ready to devour another group of would-be colonists. They think they're sending us to die, Lisa whispered to herself. Maybe it's time to show them what humans do when someone writes us off. The transport ship New Frontier shuddered as it entered Zerion 7's atmosphere. Captain Jake Murphy gripped his command chair while alarms screamed throughout the bridge. The ship's hull groaned under pressure that would have crushed most alien vessels. Hull temperature rising fast, called out engineer Pete Rodriguez from his station. The acid in this atmosphere is eating through our outer plating. How long do we have? Jake asked, watching the planet's surface grow larger on the main screen. Dark clouds swirled everywhere, lit by constant lightning. Red patches showed where lava bubbled up through the ground. Maybe an hour before we lose life support, Pete replied. This old bucket wasn't built for this kind of punishment. Dr. Amy Collins looked up from her scanner readings. I'm detecting massive electromagnetic storms across the entire continent. The lightning down there is 10 times stronger than anything on Earth. Sergeant Katie Bell checked her weapons for the 5th time. What about those stalker creatures the aliens mentioned? My sensors can't penetrate the atmospheric interference, Amy said. We're going in blind. Medic Danny Walsh opened his medical kit and started preparing emergency supplies. Well, at least if those things kill us quickly, we won't have to worry about the acid rain. Jake almost smiled. His team had volunteered for this mission knowing they probably wouldn't come back. But they were all military veterans who had survived impossible situations before. If anyone could make this work, it was them. There, Jake pointed at a rocky plateau rising above the storm clouds. That ridge might give us some protection from the worst weather. Pete, can you get us down in one piece? I can try, Pete said, his hands flying over the controls. But this ship is going to be scrap metal in a few hours no matter what we do. The landing was rough. The New Frontier bounced twice on the rocky ground before settling with a grinding crash. Immediately, the hull began steaming as acid rain hit the heated metal. Environmental suits, everyone, Jake ordered. Full protection. The team suited up quickly. Their equipment was old and patched, but it was human-made and built to last. Unlike the fancy alien gear, human technology was designed by people who expected things to break at the worst possible moment. They stepped outside into hell. The gravity hit them first. Each step felt like walking through thick mud while carrying a heavy pack. The atmospheric suit's cooling systems worked overtime against the extreme heat. Through their helmet visors, they could see a landscape that looked like the end of the world. Jagged rocks stretched in every direction, stained red and black by acidic rain. Steam rose from pools of boiling liquid that might have been water or something far worse. In the distance, lightning struck the ground every few seconds, leaving glowing scars on the rocky surface. Air analysis complete, Amy reported through the radio. The good news is there's oxygen mixed in with all the poison. The bad news is everything else will kill us in minutes without suits. How long will our suits last? Jake asked. Pete checked his readings. Maybe 6 hours if we're lucky. The acid is already starting to eat through the outer layer. Katie pointed toward a rocky overhang about 100 yards away. That cave might give us shelter while we figure out our next move. They trudged through the hostile landscape, each step a struggle against the crushing gravity. Halfway to the cave, Amy suddenly stopped. Movement, she whispered. Something big coming from the north. They all turned to look. Through the swirling acid rain, a shape moved between the rocks. It was massive, at least 15 feet tall, with a body like a cross between a bear and a lizard. Its skin gleamed with moisture that might have been sweat or acid. Stalker, Danny breathed. The creature lifted its head and seemed to look directly at them, even though they were still far away. Its eyes glowed with a strange blue light. It can sense our electrical systems, Amy said, understanding immediately. Our suits, our radios, even our heartbeats. We're lit up like Christmas trees to that thing. The stalker began moving toward them with surprising speed despite the difficult terrain. 2 more shapes appeared behind it. Cave now, Jake ordered. They ran as fast as the gravity would allow, which wasn't very fast. The stalkers moved much easier in their native environment, covering ground quickly. Jake could hear them getting closer, their claws clicking on the rocky surface. The team reached the cave entrance just as the first stalker arrived. Katie spun around and fired her rifle at the creature's chest. The energy blast hit dead center but seemed to have no effect except making the monster angrier. "The weapons don't work," she shouted. "Get inside." Jake pushed everyone into the cave. The cave was deeper than it looked from outside. They stumbled through the darkness until they found a narrow passage that the stalkers couldn't fit through. Behind them, they could hear the creatures trying to dig their way in, their claws scraping against stone. "Well," Pete said, leaning against the cave wall. "That went better than I expected." "How do you figure?" Danny asked. "We're still alive. That's already longer than most species last down here." Amy was scanning the cave walls with her equipment. "This is interesting. The rock formation here is different. It's not being eaten by the acid rain." Jake examined the stone. It had a strange, crystalline structure that seemed to shimmer in their suit lights. Could this be connected to those quantum crystals everyone wants? Maybe. But look at this. Amy pointed her scanner at a section of wall covered in what looked like moss. "This stuff is growing in pure acid rain and it's thriving." Katie was watching the cave entrance. "The stalkers gave up trying to dig us out. They're just waiting, outside now." "Smart predators," Jake observed. "They know we have to come out eventually." Danny opened his medical kit and started taking readings from everyone. "Our suits are holding up better than expected. The cave air is actually a little less toxic than outside." Pete was studying his environmental readings. "The temperature in here is more stable too. It's almost like this cave is naturally filtered." Amy knelt down next to a small pool of water that had formed in a depression in the cave floor. She ran, her scanner over it. "This water is almost drinkable. The minerals in the cave walls are neutralizing most of the acid." Jake felt something he hadn't expected to feel on this death world. "Hope. We're not trying to fight this planet," he said, slowly. "Every other species came here with the idea of changing Zerion 7 to suit them. What if we try to change ourselves to suit the planet instead?" Katie looked at him like he was crazy. "You want us to adapt to this hellhole?" "Why not? Humans have lived in deserts, Arctic tundra, and swamps. We've survived ice ages and volcanic eruptions. Our species gets stronger when things get tougher." Amy was nodding. "He might be right. Look at these cave formations. Look at that moss that grows in acid. This planet has life. It has systems that work. We just need to figure out how to work with them instead of against them." Pete grinned inside his helmet. "So instead of trying to terraform the planet, we terraform ourselves." "Exactly," Jake said. "We learn from Zerion 7. We find ways to use its strengths instead of fighting its weaknesses." Outside the cave, lightning crashed and acid rain fell. The stalkers waited patiently for their prey to emerge. But inside the cave, 5 humans began planning something no alien species had ever tried. They were going to make friends with hell itself. 3 months had passed since the human team first hid in the cave from the stalkers. Now Captain Jake Murphy stood outside, what had once been a simple rocky shelter, watching his people work in the acid rain without environmental suits. The transformation amazed him every day. Dr. Amy Collins knelt beside a patch of the strange moss they had discovered, now growing in carefully tended gardens around their base. She wore only a light breathing mask and protective goggles. Her skin had adapted to the acidic environment through a combination of natural human toughness and treatments made from local plants. "The yield is up another 12% this week," she called to Jake. "This stuff is incredible. It filters toxins from the air, provides nutrition, and the fibers can be woven into cloth that actually gets stronger when exposed to acid." Engineer Pete Rodriguez emerged from what looked like a metal sculpture, but was actually their new atmospheric processor. Unlike the massive terraforming machines other species used, Pete's design worked with Zerion 7's natural chemistry instead of fighting it. "The lightning collectors are working perfectly," Pete reported, wiping acid rain from his face like it was ordinary water. "We're generating 3 times more power than we need. The electrical storms that killed everyone else are keeping our equipment running better than any fusion reactor." Jake nodded with satisfaction. The breakthrough had come when they stopped trying to avoid the planet's deadly storms and started using them instead. Pete had designed a network of crystal conductors that captured lightning strikes and channeled the energy into their power grid. Sergeant Katie Bell jogged up to them, returning from her morning patrol. She wasn't alone. 3 smaller stalkers followed behind her like loyal dogs, their blue eyes focused on her every movement. "The northern perimeter is secure," Katie reported. Razor, Spike, and Fang checked the entire ridgeline. No signs of hostile wildlife. The stalkers she had named made soft clicking sounds that almost seemed like contentment. It had taken weeks of careful observation to realize that the massive predators weren't mindlessly aggressive. They were intelligent pack hunters with complex social structures. Katie had figured out how to communicate with them using electrical pulses from a modified radio. "Any word from the mining operation?" Jake asked. "Danny says they'll hit the main crystal formation by tomorrow," Katie replied. "The stalkers are excited about it. Apparently the crystals sing to them in frequencies we can't hear." Medic Danny Walsh had become much more than the team's medical officer. His gentle nature and careful observation skills made him perfect for studying Zerion 7's ecosystem. He had discovered that many of the planet's seemingly deadly creatures were actually essential parts of a delicate balance. Jake walked to the edge of their settlement and looked out over the landscape that had killed so many alien expeditions. The view was still harsh, but now he saw beauty in it too. Steam geysers provided heat for their buildings. Acid pools had become chemical processing plants. Even the crushing gravity had become an advantage, making the humans stronger and more resilient. Amy joined him at the observation point, carrying a datapad full of her latest research. "The council monitoring station sent another message," she said. "They want to know when we're going to start dying." Jake laughed. "What did you tell them?" "That we're too busy to die right now. Our quantum crystal production is already ahead of schedule, and we've discovered 17 new species that could revolutionize galactic medicine." She showed him images on her datapad of creatures that looked like living jewels, plants that glowed with their own light and bacteria that could break down almost any toxic compound. "The funny thing is," Amy continued, "this planet isn't really a death world at all, it's just different. Every species that came here before tried to make it like their home world. They fought the environment until it killed them. While we made it our home," Jake said. Pete walked over to join them, followed by one of his latest inventions. It looked like a cross between a spider and a drill, but it moved with mechanical precision through the rocky terrain. "The mining bots are working better than I hoped," Pete explained. "Instead of fighting the acid, they use it to dissolve precise channels in the rock. The crystals practically harvest themselves." The bot clicked and whirred as it worked, breaking down ore with controlled chemical reactions instead of brute force machinery. It was completely unlike the massive industrial equipment other species used. How much are we producing? Jake asked. More than any previous expedition dreamed of. Pete grinned. And we're barely scratching the surface. The crystal formations go down for miles. Katie's stalkers suddenly raised their heads and made warning sounds. The humans had learned to trust the creature's superior senses. Something's coming, Katie said, checking her modified radio equipment. Multiple ships approaching from orbit. Jake activated his communication device. This is Murphy Base to approaching vessels. State your purpose. The reply came in the familiar voice of Counselor Thax. Captain Murphy, this is a Council rescue. Fleet. We're here to evacuate any survivors before the planet kills you. Jake exchanged glances with his team. They all knew what this really meant. The aliens had expected them to die weeks ago. Now that the humans were succeeding, the Council wanted to take over the operation. That's very thoughtful, Jake replied calmly. But we don't need rescuing. We've established a permanent colony and mining operation. There was a long pause before Thax responded. That's impossible. No species can survive on a Class 0 death world for more than a few days. Apparently humans can, Jake said. In fact, we're thriving. Amy was monitoring the approaching ships with her scanners. 12 vessels, she reported quietly. Military configuration. They're not here to rescue us. Pete nodded grimly. They're here to take over our operation and probably eliminate any witnesses. Katie's stalkers were becoming agitated, sensing the tension from their human companions. The creatures began making deeper, more threatening sounds. How long until they land? Jake asked. 2 hours, maybe less, Amy replied. Jake looked around at their settlement, at the incredible achievements his team had made in just 3 months. They had done the impossible and turned hell into home. Now the same aliens who had sent them here to die wanted to steal their success. Well, he said finally, I guess it's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten a human home. Katie grinned and began checking her weapons, but this time she wasn't just armed with human technology. She had learned to work with Zerion 7's natural defenses. Pete was already planning modifications to their lightning collectors that could serve a very different purpose than power generation. Amy started preparing her most dangerous biological specimens for rapid deployment. Danny began organizing the stalkers and other native creatures that had become their allies. The aliens were coming to take their planet. They had no idea that the humans weren't planning to run away. This was their home now, and humans defended their homes with everything they had, including the planet itself. The alien rescue fleet hung in orbit above Zerion 7 like a collection of metal sharks. Counselor Thax stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the data screens that showed impossible readings from the planet's surface. This cannot be accurate, he muttered to his science officer. The humans are mining quantum crystals at rates that exceed our best projections by 300%. The data is confirmed, Counselor, the officer replied nervously. They have also established permanent structures and are somehow living without environmental suits. Thax's blue skin darkened with anger. The other council members had sent him to clean up what should have been a simple failure. Instead, he faced a situation that threatened everything the galactic power structure was built on. Commander Vex, he called to his military aide, prepare the troops for immediate deployment. We evacuate the humans and destroy all evidence of their activities. The official report will state that the colony was lost to planetary hazards. What about the humans themselves? Vex asked. Unfortunate casualties of a rescue mission gone wrong, Thax said coldly. The Council cannot allow word of this success to spread. On the planet's surface, Captain Jake Murphy watched the alien ships through Pete's modified scanners. The readings showed military vessels powering up weapon systems. They're not here to talk, Jake announced to his team. 12 ships, full battle configuration. They mean to wipe us out. Dr. Amy Collins looked up from her biological samples. How long do we have? Their first shuttles will reach the surface in 90 minutes, Pete reported. After that, they'll probably start orbital bombardment. Sergeant Katie Bell was already moving toward her equipment. We can't fight 12 warships with small arms. We're not going to fight the ships, Jake said with a grim smile. We're going to fight with Zerion 7. Over the past 3 months, the humans had learned every secret the deadly planet had to offer. Now it was time to use that knowledge as a weapon. Pete ran to his lightning collection array. I can overload the crystal network and create an electromagnetic pulse that will scramble their electronics. But I need time to build up enough charge. How much time? Jake asked. 40 minutes for a pulse strong enough to affect ships in orbit. Amy was already preparing her biological weapons. I can release spores that will corrode their equipment and make breathing impossible for most alien species. The acid-resistant bacteria I've been studying should eat through their hull plating, Katie called to her stalker companions. Razor, Spike, Fang, gather the pack. Time to hunt. The 3 domesticated stalkers made excited clicking sounds and bounded away to summon their wild relatives. Within minutes, dozens of the massive predators emerged from caves and rocky hiding places across the plateau. Danny Walsh was coordinating with the other native creatures they had befriended. Bioluminescent serpents that could squeeze through tiny spaces, acid-spitting beetles the size of house cats, and swarms of flying creatures that fed on electrical energy. The planet's ecosystem is on our side, Danny reported. Every species here hates invaders who try to change their world. Jake activated the communication system. All stations, execute Operation Hellstorm. The first alien shuttle broke through the storm clouds 20 minutes later. The pilot expected to find desperate humans hiding in primitive shelters. Instead, he found something impossible. Lightning struck his shuttle the moment it entered the lower atmosphere. But this wasn't natural lightning. Pete's modified collectors had turned the entire plateau into a giant electrical weapon. The shuttle's systems failed instantly, and it crashed into a pool of acid that had been positioned exactly where Pete calculated it would fall. Shuttle 1 is down, the pilot managed to report before his radio died. Some kind of directed lightning strike. The landing zone is more hostile than expected. 3 more shuttles tried different approach routes. All of them were struck by perfectly aimed lightning bolts that seemed to come from the storms themselves. Counselor Thax watched his landing craft fall from the sky like burning meteors. How are they controlling the weather? He demanded. His science officer stared at the readings in disbelief. They've built some kind of network using the quantum crystals. They're channeling the planet's electrical storms through crystalline conductors. Then we destroy them from orbit, Thax snarled. Charge the main batteries. But when his weapons officer tried to target the human settlement, the ship's systems began acting strangely. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. Sir, we're losing power, the engineer reported. Something is draining our energy reserves. Through the viewport, Thax could see clouds of glowing particles rising from the planet's surface. Amy's specially designed bacteria were eating the ship's hull, while her electrical parasites drained power from their systems. All ships, emergency retreat to higher orbit, Thax ordered. But it was too late. Pete's electromagnetic pulse fired, at that exact moment, sending waves of energy through space that overloaded every electronic system in the alien fleet. 12 warships went dark simultaneously, their crews trapped in metal coffins falling toward the planet they had tried to destroy. The ships crashed across Zerion 7's surface in a series of spectacular explosions. Those that survived the impact found themselves stranded on the same world that had killed so many of their people. Jake and his team watched the destruction from their safe position in the modified cave system. The stalkers around them made satisfied clicking sounds as if they understood that the threat to their territory had been eliminated. Emergency beacon from the alien flagship, Pete reported. They're requesting immediate rescue. How interesting, Jake replied. The same people who sent us here to die now need our help to survive. Amy was already analyzing readings from the crash sites. Most of their environmental suits won't last more than a few hours in this atmosphere. They'll need shelter, water filtration, and protection from the native wildlife. Katie grinned. The same native wildlife that wants to eat them for invading their territory. Danny was preparing medical supplies. Despite everything the aliens had tried to do, his nature was to help anyone who needed it. Some of them are badly injured. They'll die without treatment. Jake considered their options carefully. The aliens had come to murder them and steal their work. But now they were helpless. trapped on a world they couldn't survive without human help. Open a communication channel, he decided. Thax's desperate voice came through the static. Human colony, this is Counselor Thax. We have wounded and need immediate assistance. Our ships are destroyed, and our suits are failing. I understand your situation, Jake replied calmly. But I have conditions. Name them, Thax said quickly. Fear had replaced arrogance in his voice. First, you will send a message to the Galactic Council explaining that humanity has successfully colonized Zerion 7 and established mining operations. Second, you will recommend that humans be given full rights to all Class 0 worlds that other species cannot handle. Third, you will work with us to establish proper diplomatic relations. There was a long pause. Then Thax's defeated voice replied, Agreed, just please help us. Jake looked at his team with pride. They had not only survived the impossible, but had turned their enemies into allies. Zerion 7 was theirs now, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to make home anywhere and defend it against anyone. 6 months after the alien fleet crashed on Zerion 7, the planet looked completely different. What had once been a barren hellscape now bustled with activity from dozens of different species, all learning to live together in ways the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Jake Murphy stood on the observation deck of the newly built Zerion research station, watching aliens from across the galaxy work alongside humans in the acid rain. None of them wore the bulky environmental suits that had once been considered essential for survival. Daily production report, announced Dr. Amy Collins as she joined him. Her skin had the same weathered look as all the long-term residents, toughened by months of adaptation to the harsh environment. Quantum crystal output is up 40% from last month. More importantly, we've got breakthrough discoveries in 17 different scientific fields. Below them, engineer Pete Rodriguez was teaching a group of crystalline collective engineers how to build atmospheric processors that worked with planetary chemistry instead of against it. The aliens' transparent bodies flickered with excitement as they understood concepts their species had never considered. The teaching programs are working better than we hoped, Amy continued. Turns out most species can adapt to extreme environments if they stop trying to change everything and start learning instead. Sergeant Katie Bell approached with her usual escort of stalkers, but now she also had 3 young Zephyrian scientists following her around like curious students. The bird-like aliens had volunteered to stay on Zerion 7 after their government requested access to human survival techniques. The perimeter is secure, Katie reported. The new arrivals from the hegemony are settling in well. Their ambassador wants to establish a permanent embassy here. Jake nodded with satisfaction. Word of humanity's success on Zerion 7 had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Instead of trying to hide what happened, the Galactic Council had been forced to acknowledge human achievements publicly. The results had been dramatic. Dozens of species that had considered humans primitive were now requesting human assistance, with their own impossible colonization projects. Class 0 death worlds that had remained untouched for centuries were suddenly valuable real estate. Medic Danny Walsh emerged from the medical center with Counselor Thax walking beside him. The alien politician looked very different from the arrogant figure who had tried to destroy the human colony. Months of living on Zerion 7 had humbled him and taught him respect for human capabilities. The Council's final decision came through, Thax announced, holding up a communication device. Humanity has been granted exclusive colonization rights to all Class 0 worlds in this sector. The Council also formally apologizes for the attempt to eliminate your colony. Jake accepted the news calmly. And our other requests? Approved. Humans will be given full membership in the Galactic Trade Commission, with voting rights equal to any other species. The Zerion Research Station is officially recognized as an independent territory under human governance. Thax paused, looking embarrassed. There is one more thing. 7 other species have requested human assistance with failed colony worlds. The Council is prepared to pay substantial fees for human expertise. Amy laughed. They want us to fix the messes they made trying to terraform planets that didn't need terraforming. Something like that, Thax admitted. It seems your approach of adaptation rather than domination produces far better results than our traditional methods. Pete joined the group, his clothes still steaming from working in the latest acid storm. The irony is perfect. They sent us to the worst planet they could find, expecting us to die. Instead, we proved that the worst planets make the best homes if you know how to live with them. Katie's stalkers made their clicking sounds of amusement, as if they understood the joke. Over the months, the native creatures had become an integral part of the colony's success. Their knowledge of local conditions and their protective instincts had saved human lives countless times. "What's the status on the other Death World projects?" Jake asked. Danny consulted his datapad. "We've got teams preparing for missions to 6 different planets. The Vorthak want us to help them establish operations on a world with gravity 12 times normal. The insectoids need assistance with a planet where the entire surface is covered in toxic fungus. And everyone wants to learn our methods," Amy added. "We're not just colonizing planets anymore. We're teaching the galaxy a completely new way to think about hostile environments." Jake walked to the edge of the observation deck and looked out over their transformed world. Steam geysers provided power for the research facilities. Acid pools had become chemical processing plants that produced materials impossible to create anywhere else. The crushing gravity that had killed so many aliens had made the human residents stronger and healthier than ever. In the distance, he could see the memorial they had built for all the species that had died trying to conquer Zerion 7. The monument was made from local crystal and designed to resonate with the planet's electromagnetic field, creating music that could be heard across the entire plateau. "You know what the best part is?" Pete said, joining Jake at the railing. "We're not just surviving here anymore. This planet has become home. Real home." Amy nodded. "The psychological evaluations show that none of our people want to leave. Even the aliens who came here as prisoners are requesting permanent residency." "Because we proved something the galaxy forgot," Jake said. "Home isn't a place you find, it's a place you make." A communication alert sounded from the main console. Katie checked the message and grinned. "Priority message from Earth. The first wave of permanent colonists is launching next week. 500 volunteers, including families with children." "Children," Danny repeated with wonder. "Kids who will grow up thinking acid rain and lightning storms are normal weather." "The next generation of Zerion 7 natives," Amy said. "They'll be adapted to this environment from birth. Stronger, tougher, and completely at home on a world the rest of the galaxy still considers impossible." Thax watched the humans with something approaching awe. "Your species continues to amaze me. Most civilizations would have fled after proving their point. You're building a permanent society." "Of course we are," Jake replied. "This is our world now. We're not tourists here anymore. We're natives." As if to emphasize his point, one of Katie's stalkers nudged against Jake's hand with obvious affection. The massive predator that had once hunted humans now considered them part of its pack. "Besides," Pete added with a grin, "someone needs to be here to welcome the next species the Council decides to send to an impossible world. We'll teach them what we learned. There's no such thing as a death world. There are only worlds where you haven't figured out how to live yet." The sun set behind the storm clouds of Zerion 7, painting the acid rain in brilliant colors that would have been deadly beautiful to the first human visitors. Now it was just another beautiful evening at home. Jake activated the intercom system that reached every corner of their growing settlement. "All stations, this is Murphy Base. Today marks exactly 1 year since we arrived on Zerion 7. The aliens sent us here expecting us to die. Instead, we learned how to live." Across the colony, humans and aliens alike paused in their work to listen. "Tomorrow we begin preparations for our next challenge. The galaxy has plenty more impossible worlds that need the human touch. Time to show them that when you send humans to hell, we don't just survive, we turn it into home." The response that came back from every corner of the settlement was unanimous. "Welcome to hell, we hope you like what we've done with the place."